everyone. So I'm Royce Aguilar. I'm the equity research analyst of First Metro Securities. So let's get started. For those first-time attendees, our usual sequence here, we usually discuss what happened in the previous month. So today is the last day of May. Tomorrow, June na. So today is the last day of May. We'll discuss what happened in May, what to watch out for in the month of June, our long-term stock picks and traders playbook highlights. So let's get started with what happened in May. So in May, actually the PSCI ended higher by 43 points. We closed at 6,774 earlier, but year to date we're still down by nearly 5%. So let's discuss what dragged the market in the first part of the month. So there's this stagflation concerns. So for those wondering, we will discuss what is stagflation in a while. Of course, higher global inflation, and then there's this wait and see mode as the incoming Philippine the incoming government or administration has yet to lay down economic plans. So that actually dragged the market, especially in the middle of the month, right? But what supported the market or what made the market go up is BSP began the key policy rate lift-off amid above target inflation expectations. Of course, usually concept-wise, if the central bank increases interest rates, that's not good for equities. But what happened here was if the main goal is to address inflation, it's a good news, because of course higher than expected inflation eats up the margins or eats up the profits of the companies. Another is stronger than expected GDP print. So we came in at 8.3%. The estimate was at 6.2, 6.8%. The bottom line is it's significantly higher than expected. So again, this is stagflation. If you just search for stagflation, a lot of news articles will come up and discuss why the Fed or why the U.S. Central Bank must address it. Of course, not only the U.S. Central Bank, but all over the world, there's this fear of stagflation, which we last faced significantly in the 1970s, right? So to define, actually, this is sort of a comparison on the definition of inflation and stagflation. Because inflation, it means the broad increases in prices, right? So if you take a look at stagflation, it's a term used by economists to define an economy that has inflation, slow or stagnant economic growth, and high unemployment. So yun yung fear, right? So economic policymakers across the globe are trying to avoid stagflation at all costs, and we are on the cusp of experiencing another one. So we're hoping it doesn't come like 1970s, right? Because that will be catastrophic. We're still recovering from the COVID-19 recession. Right now, this is fear of stagflation. Nevertheless, it's important to know the characteristics of stagflation for us to be able to, at least for those na may investment portfolio, for us to be able to adjust our allocation. So I would like to share, as of yesterday, these are the proposed cabinet members of the next administration, right? So we have here familiar faces, right? But I would like to discuss yung economic team, specifically if you take a look at Saneda, that's Arsenio Balisacan. He's the economic czar also nung Aquino admin, right? If you take a look at si Benjamin Jokno, the former BSP governor, he's now part of the Department of Finance. He's actually, by profession, he is dubbed as this expert of fiscal policy, so he's a good fit there supposedly. So to discuss now on this slide, besides the department which they will head, I also put here yung previous nilang positions, right? So, for example, for Benner Avalos, he's the former MMDA chair. For DTI, ex-UP president, right? And then for the Department of Public Works and Highways, si Manny Bonoan, he's the former San Miguel Tollways president. For Susan Oplef, migrant workers advocate. For Benny Laguesma, he's actually a former labor chief, right? So familiar si Attorney Vic Rodriguez, right? He's now the executive secretary. So I think for most of the appointments, that's why the market I kind of rebounded. They welcome the development of some of the appointments, right? Especially for the economic team. We've been mentioning in the previous presentations that it's very important to focus more on the economic team, right? Because that will steer us towards a more sustainable economic recovery. Okay. So now let's discuss the technical analysis, the price action. We managed to recover from the lows of 63, right, this month. But we're still facing resistance levels. Okay, we're not out of the woods yet. For if you ask me, we have to break above 6,800 at least to get the ball rolling. All right, the market must break above 7.2 for the trend to officially reverse. That's my opinion. So while we welcome the recent rebound, we're not out of the woods yet. So what do we watch out for in the month of June? We're seeing a slight uptick sa COVID-19 reproduction cases, but the question here is, will it continue? Right. So far, the uptick is slow. It's not significant. It's not worrisome, but it's something to continue to watch out for. Diba yung monkeypox? I did not put it here yet, but of course, if it comes here, it's something na we should watch out for na. But of course, yung monkeypox, iba naman nakukuha yun, more on physical contact. So it's not yet worrisome, at least for the Philippines. In terms of economic data to watch out for, a lot of data, manufacturing, inflation. And this is the month where across the world, most, if not all, the central bank governors will meet, or the central bank team will meet, right? Especially for Philippines, we might increase rates by 25 bips. For US, another increase of 50 bips. That's expectation. So sino magbe-benefit doon? So of course, I will reiterate later na the banking sector will benefit from that. So luckily, it's one of our sector picks, banks. And what should we continue to watch out for is the platform of the new administration. That's the overhang right now. Because, for example, back in the Duterte administration, it's pretty clear that the government will try to focus on infrastructure, diba, build. That's why the market was positive right after the Duterte win. Right now, after President-elect Marcos Jr. won, the market was jittery because they did not know where to invest on. Yung mga umakyat lang, yung mga related sa family, right? So we must continue to be alert of which types of platform the next administration will implement. We should continue to watch out for Ukraine-Russia developments and its impact on commodity prices, because if you ask me, Ukraine-Russia, no positive development so far. So that will continue to take a hit on commodity prices, gas prices, and the like. So language of the central banks across the world on inflation and monetary policy. Kasi faster than expected yung pag-increase in interest rates, that's not good for equities. What we want is a gradual increase in rates. Okay. So in terms of stock picks, we are currently revising the target prices of our picks. Give it a week or two, we will actually upload a new report on our revised year-end target, right? So, but for now, here are our picks. Okay, for SM, current target price, let's just wait, but at least it's still line of 1,000. But it's still our top pick. It's still our top pick because, to say the least, it's the top company across sectors where we see recovery to be robust, specifically retail, property, and banks. It's retail, diba? SM Retail, SM Department Store, number 1. SM Prime Holdings, SMDC Condos, number 1. Banks, BDO, number 1, right? So it's a no-brainer for us that SM is one of our top picks. It's just that it's currently facing share price resistance because of what happens to FTSE and right now what happens to MSCI, right? But something to take advantage of, definitely. RHI, another pick of ours under consumer. We will get back in terms of the updated target price, but definitely we will revise this one. But in terms of qualitative on why we like RHI, basically recovery in malls, right? If you go to a mall kahit Thursday, parang weekend na, right? If you go sa weekend, pre-pandemic na siya. So there's this pent-up demand that we've been mentioning for quite some time now, and we are now slowly seeing it persist. For Ayala for property sector, it's still the leader in Philippine residential market. In terms of its first quarter earnings, we would have liked a better earnings from Ayala Land, but nevertheless, it's still a pick of ours, and we continue to see upside. It's the share price right now is hovering at 29 to 30 because of the MSCI. But since the fundamentals did not change, it's just some MSCI rebalancing. It's something long-term investors can take advantage of. It's the same reasons for Robinsons Land. We revised the target downwards to 25. But nevertheless, operational conditions should continue to improve and reopening and backed by robust macroeconomic fundamentals. So there's no reason to sell. It's just that we tempered our expectations given what we're seeing in inflation and the like. For SMPH, our target price by next week revised na yan. We left it blank for now, but it's still a buy pick of ours. So for BPI, this is already an updated model, and our target price is 111, still at 111. For management, they expect loan growth to reach 8 to 10% this year. As of first quarter, it's at 7.2% already. And in the absence of other variants in the coming quarters, we continue to expect a sustainable trend in loan growth in the coming quarters. For BDO, we lowered the target price to 170. To focus on the second point, our outlook on the counter remains positive. Again, rising interest rate environment, so banks yung magbe-benefit from that. That should bode well for key metrics such as loan growth, asset quality. Security Bank, also our target price is still 150. The upside will come from rebound retail banking. And of course, just to reiterate, we can't cover Metro Bank since we're part of the group, and that's by policy. We can't cover Metro Bank, but our research partner, the target price is 68 pesos. So it's a buy from them if you want to know. So this is our top picks. Diba? A share price as of May 31 and the target price. So for GFC, I have to update that, right? So for GFC, so I will update that. So for GFC, our target price is at 220, if I'm not mistaken. So this is our model port. Basically, the performance of our picks as compared to the share price performance, or as compared to the benchmark. So there. In terms of our trader's playbook, we will show you the highlights later, but I would like to focus on one stock where we saw the share price perform. In terms of this stock, diba si SPTech, I would like to focus more on the second slide. This one. Diba, if you take a look at this pattern, parang textbook breakout. It actually broke out, diba? It actually broke out in the past days. It broke above 1.85. I think it pulled back a bit, but for us, it must continue to stay above 185 for the pattern to be confirmed. So yun lang siya. So this is our traders playbook, 60% hit ratio. But of course, in the market where you're down, where the index is down by 5%, we are happy about this, especially if you average the performance of all of our picks, the good ones, the bad ones. 6.4% pa rin siya year to date as compared to PSCI. So there, this is our recent podcast. We talked to Luis Benaventura. He's a country manager of Yield Gig Games. He's a crypto entrepreneur, author, and NFT artist. In the early part of the interview, I mentioned that why are we discussing crypto if we're only offering equities, diba? So if you take a look at the mutual funds, kasi sa FundSmart, yung mga American, the US funds, right? You see there, Tesla, Square, Meta. They're trying to involve themselves with metaverse, diba? And they're equities, they're stocks. So it's good to know. It's good to know the basics, diba? So we must continue to be open-minded about these things because who knows, diba? In 5 to 10 years to come, this can dominate the financial industry. So yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So I'll try to answer your questions. So we have a lot of questions. So first is, what's your opinion of Metrobank or price projection? So as mentioned earlier, we have a research partner, Development Bank of Singapore, and their price projection of Metrobank is at 68 pesos. We don't cover Metrobank, that's by policy because we're part of the group, diba? To remove bias na rin. So it's good that we have a research partner who does it for us. So their target price is 68 pesos. And it's the same thesis actually as what we have sa BDO BPI economic reopening. Since nag-reopen the economy, more businesses will open, more businesses will borrow, diba? So that's one. Number two, rising interest rate environment, higher interest rates, they can charge higher rates. Simple as that. So hope I answered your question. So next question, when would you think BSP will raise rates again? It's a good question. Safe to say, definitely. Let's trickle it down. Definitely, second half they will continue to raise rates. Actually, by June they could raise rates. It's possible, but gradual lang siya, 25 bips. For the Fed, 50 bips. They have to be aggressive, especially inflation is nasty in the US. Higher inflation rates, growth rates. Next question, what do you think of the mining industry? Is it a good thing to invest into right now? Well, we've been sounding off on, we've been not sounding off, we've been recommending mining for quite some time now. We've been specific about it, specifically sa Merara, Nickel Asia on our Traders Playbook reports. We have been posting several times updates on the earnings, on the company updates. So the question is, how about now? Definitely there's less upside as before kasi marami nang na-price in the developments, especially for the likes of nickel. The story about nickel kasi it's a long-term play on electric vehicles because the lithium-ion batteries used sa electric vehicles, yung raw materials yung nickel. So it's a long-term play. It's just that the price have gone up significantly, so it's more of a buy on dips. Same for Semerara. For Semerara, while the long term is leaning towards renewables, that's clear. What is yung question kasi is coal still a need right now? The question is yes. Especially what happens in China, there's a need for electricity demand as the economy reopens. So yung coal talaga is a need right now. So for the mining industry, we have to be specific, coal and nickel. We have to watch out for nickel kasi a lot of the prospects have been priced in already. Another good question. Where would you think the problem is with current inflation? Is it demand or supply? Well, if you take a look at it globally, it's a mix of both. Kasi demand, may pent-up demand ka. Kasi nakakalabas na yung mga tao. A lot of people can go out already. Then there's the supply chain disruption brought about by geopolitical events like of Ukraine, Russia. One example, I know someone they came from the US, papuntang Philippines. Pag nagpal ka, usually straight flight lang yun. The problem, they can't go above the Russian airspace. So they have to go around, they stop sa Vancouver pa. Diba? So magulo, may supply chain disruption ka. And of course, it affects like the mga packages, it affects the products na nagta-transport, right? So just one example, and multiply that 100,000 times over. That's the effect on inflation, both demand and supply. For the Philippines, it's mostly still supply. Yung pent-up demand will come in the coming months more. Kaya nga, if you think that the 4.9% inflation last month is high, just watch out for the coming months kasi meron ng demand-driven inflation. But right now, what we're feeling more is of the supply one. Right? Diba yung mga vegetables, supply yan, supply. So in the coming months, more on we'll see demand. Next question. For a beginner investor trader po, tulad ko, anong stocks na magandang panimula for investing ngayon darating na June? So you can start with our top picks. If you ask me, our top picks are not that, are relatively less riskier because they're big caps. They're big caps, tapos they are companies that already encountered several crises and managed to maintain market leadership. I'm not saying they're not risky, they're relatively less riskier as compared to the smaller names. So you can start with that, and then you can mix up a bit of REITs, you can mix a bit of dividend yielding names, PLDT, Semerara, and then that's a safe type of portfolio, right? But if you ask me, this is not the time to be fully aggressive since we're seeing a lot of risk globally. But definitely, there's zero reason to be 0% exposed. Dapat may exposure. It's just a matter now of allocation, matter of exposure. Right now, kahit 25%, 50% exposure ka sa market, you're good. You stick with the bigger names first. That's what we recommend. Let's check some other questions. Oh, okay, good question. So I am new. I have not heard of MSCI. What does it stand for? So for MSCI, it's Morgan Stanley Capital International. For MSCI, the purpose of that, especially in the equities industry, kasi they're a global benchmark firm and they create this global benchmark indices. So let's take this for example. I'm a fund manager, right? I don't know much about Philippines. What MSCI does is they create this sort of index, their own index, given their own criteria. And then what fund manager does is they just take a look at this indices that MSCI does. Kasi yung assumption here is MSCI is a reputable firm. It's a reputable global benchmark provider. So what the fund managers do is they take a look at MSCI index, right? And every quarter there's this what we call rebalancing. So if I'm a global fund manager, I track the MSCI index. Tapos, for example, according to MSCI, the weight of this stock is lower, the weight of this stock is higher, this stock is removed from the MSCI index, this stock is added to the MSCI index. What the global fund manager will do is they will track it. They will track the changes. That's what we saw today. Yung actual rebalancing. So that's the gist of it, right? So may times every quarter you will see heavy trading activity by the end of the month, like every Feb, end of May, end of November, end of August. Kasi MSCI rebalancing. So I hope I answered your question. Okay, we have questions regarding Starlink, so I'll try to answer. Will the entry of Elon Musk's Starlink provide internet services to the Philippines affect telco's growth rate and profit? It's a good question. I think it depends because, for example, it depends kasi, for example, si Converge may partnership siya with Starlink. But I guess it's more of, I think it's more of, hindi siya yung overall partnership na 50-50. It's a different type of partnership, smaller partnership. But the question here is, will it affect the growth rate and profit? Kasi for Starlink, it has a different purpose. It has a different type of reach. So we'll see. But the answer is yes, it could affect growth rate and profit, but it's a matter of how. It's a matter of when, because it could be a partnership, right? We're unsure yet. What the market is speculating is si Trans-Pacific Broadband Group (TBGI) will benefit, but it's still unclear how the partnership will work, right? But what the one thing that's clear is Starlink is already here, so they're setting up shop. It could affect telco's growth rate and profit, but we will have to evaluate kasi how, because if si Starlink naman charges higher, if it does charge, tapos ang laki ng charge niya, syempre matatamaan lang yung mga demand mo from the higher income, diba? So it depends na sa how the market share will be eaten up, but we should continue to watch the developments on that and who will be involved. But one thing's for sure, si Converge, they have this small partnership. Tapos si TBGI, I'm unsure of the partnership yet, but based sa social media nila, they're posting developments for Starlink, so let's see. Other questions, will FMS offer crypto trading in the future? We'll see, but as of the moment, not yet. Other question on Bangkok, that's Bank of Commerce, just wondering why its price going down. Any thoughts and comments on this? It's just tracking the market, right? For Bank of Commerce, I think nag-IPO siya at 12 and it's now below 10. I've been watching Bank of Commerce a bit, and it's just usually tracking the market. But if you ask me, the banks kasi are a good bet given the rising interest rate environment. But I wouldn't say I would directly, purchase Bank of Commerce right now. Although we should recognize their efforts towards digitalization. That's actually a good long-term strategy, especially right now. A lot of people are leaning towards online banking or using their mobile app to transfer money. So that's a good long-term play. But for now, kasi they're still in the process of that. So it's not necessarily something to aggressively bet on right now. We prefer the bigger ones who are already established na, diba? So BDO, BPI, SecBank, Metrobank, if you want to refer to our research partner. So there are any other questions? All right. So there being none. Okay, we have one more question. Okay. Okay, so for the newly launched PSE dividend yield index, are there products, assets, or ETFs that will be created? None yet, but I think that's the main expectation of the PSE to offer that yun yung main goal rather, that other firms will create products that will track the dividend yield index. It's a good index, so we're hoping a lot of firms will track that. But right now, not yet. But that's the goal. That's the goal. So there. So okay. So thank you everyone. So this has been Royce Aguilar, equity research analyst of First Metro Securities. And as always, in First Metro Securities is hashtag your future first. So please tune in to our Spotify, Apple, Google podcast for the uploading of this video. Please tell it to your friends, newbie friends, or expert friends sa investing for updates. This is a monthly update, and we love to help as always. So thank you.